Let me tell you something about success. It's not a one-time event. It's not a lucky break or a viral moment or a single big opportunity that changes your life. Real success, the kind that lasts, is built quietly, consistently, and deliberately. It's built one small improvement at a time. You see, we often overestimate what we can achieve in a week, but we drastically underestimate what we can build over a year, especially if we commit to improving just a little bit every single day. 2026 is not going to reward those who work the hardest. It's going to reward those who adapt, those who learn faster, those who grow daily. The difference between where you are now and where you want to be by the end of 2026 will not come from massive overnight change. It will come from small, intentional progress. So, in this talk, I want to show you the things you must improve daily, the habits, the mindset, and the choices that separate the people who simply dream of success from those who create it. Because if you want to win in 2026, you can't wait for the future. You have to start building it today. Before we can ever hope to improve our skills, we have to start by improving our mindset. Because everything we do, everything we build, and everything we become begins in our minds. Most people chase skills, techniques, and shortcuts without ever realizing that their mindset, the way they think, the way they interpret challenges, and the way they respond to failure, is the foundation of everything that follows. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if your mindset is fixed, fearful, or fragile, your skills will never reach their full potential. The truth is, success starts long before the results show up. It begins in the invisible space of how we think every single day. Improving your mindset is not about thinking positive all the time. It's about thinking constructively. It's about understanding that setbacks are not stop signs, they are signals. They tell you what needs attention, where to grow, and what to improve. A strong mindset doesn't ignore problems. It faces them, learns from them, and turns them into lessons. Every challenge you face in life has two parts: the event itself and your interpretation of it. You can't always control the first part, but you have full control over the second. That's the part where mindset comes in. If you choose to see obstacles as opportunities, mistakes as teachers, and criticism as guidance, you'll start transforming not just what you do, but who you are becoming in the process. When I talk about mindset, I don't just mean being confident or optimistic. I mean being intentional. I mean waking up every morning with the decision to improve, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or uncertain. The people who achieve extraordinary things don't necessarily have more talent, they have more resilience. They've trained their minds to stay calm under pressure, to focus on progress over perfection, and to keep moving when most people stop. They've learned that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every skill you want to master, every goal you want to achieve, will test your mindset first. The test is never about how much you know, it's about how much you can endure, how willing you are to grow, and how committed you are when things get tough. To improve your mindset daily, start by observing your thoughts. Most people live unconsciously. They let their fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs run the show. But when you start paying attention, when you start asking, why am I thinking this way? You begin to take back control. Self-awareness is the first step to mental strength. Once you become aware, you can start replacing those limiting thoughts with empowering ones. Instead of saying, I can't do this, ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of thinking, this is too hard, try, this is how I grow stronger. You're not denying reality. You're choosing a perspective that moves you forward instead of holding you back. Another part of improving your mindset is surrounding yourself with the right influences. Your environment shapes your thinking more than you realize. If you spend time with people who complain, doubt, or fear change, that mindset will rub off on you. But if you spend time with people who challenge you, who push you, who believe in progress, your mind will start to mirror that energy. Your mindset is like a garden. If you don't intentionally plant the right seeds, weeds will take over. The books you read, the videos you watch, the conversations you engage in, all of these are nutrients for your mental soil. Be intentional about what you feed your mind. Growth mindset is another crucial part of success in 2026 and beyond. A growth mindset is the belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and effort. It's the opposite of a fixed mindset, which assumes that talent alone determines your success. People with a growth mindset don't fear failure, they see it as feedback. They understand that every skill, every strength, and every success story began with a series of small, imperfect steps. Improving your mindset means letting go of perfectionism. It's realizing that progress matters more than looking smart, and that being teachable is far more valuable than being right. To build that mindset, practice gratitude daily. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's possible. It grounds you in reality while fueling hope. When you practice gratitude, you remind yourself that even in the hardest moments, you still have the ability to choose your response. You still have control over your effort, your attitude, and your actions. And that's where true power comes from. Because when you focus on what you can control, you stop wasting energy on what you can't. That's how mental resilience grows, not by avoiding challenges, but by facing them with clarity and strength. Mindset improvement also means managing your self-talk. The most powerful conversations you will ever have are the ones you have with yourself. Every day, your inner voice either empowers you or limits you. It tells you whether to try again or give up, to take action or to delay, to believe in your potential or to doubt it. To improve your mindset, you have to train that voice to become your ally, not your enemy. Speak to yourself with the same compassion and belief that you'd show someone you care about. Because the truth is, you can't lead yourself towards success with a voice that constantly criticizes you. Self-discipline starts with self-respect, and self-respect starts with self-awareness. Improving your mindset daily is a lifelong process. It requires consistency, patience, and humility. It's not something you master. It's something you practice. Some days, you'll feel strong and confident. Other days, you'll feel lost or tired. But those are the days when mindset matters most. The real growth happens not when everything is going right, but when you choose to stay focused even when it's hard. When you keep learning, when you keep believing, when you keep trying again. Because success isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. The more you work on your mindset, the more capable you become of handling anything life throws your way. Mastering consistency is one of the hardest, yet most powerful disciplines you can develop. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It doesn't make headlines or go viral, but it's the quiet force behind every great success story. The people who build meaningful, lasting results aren't necessarily the most talented or the most intelligent. They're the ones who show up every single day, especially when they don't feel like it. Consistency is the bridge between intention and achievement. It's what turns goals into habits and habits into outcomes. And yet, most people underestimate its power because it doesn't give instant results. It's slow, it's repetitive, and it demands patience. But that's the very reason it works, because so few are willing to commit to it long enough to see its full impact. Every great athlete, every respected leader, every successful entrepreneur understands one truth: consistency compounds. Small actions done repeatedly create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. We often think success comes from one big decision, but it actually comes from thousands of small decisions. Decisions to keep going, to keep improving, to keep practicing when no one is watching. The magic doesn't lie in intensity, it lies in persistence. Anyone can work hard for a day, but only a few can keep doing the right things for months or years without losing focus. That's what separates the amateurs from the masters, the talkers from the doers. When you master consistency, you train your brain to follow through on commitments. You build trust with yourself. Most people don't lack motivation. They lack trust in their own discipline. They've broken too many promises to themselves. They start a project with enthusiasm, but quit when the excitement fades. They say they'll change, but when discomfort shows up, they stop. Consistency rebuilds that inner trust. Every time you do what you said you would, even in small things, you reinforce your self-belief. You start to see yourself as someone reliable, someone who follows through, someone who gets things done. And that identity shift changes everything. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means progress. It means doing something even when it's not perfect, even when the conditions aren't ideal. Too many people wait for motivation to strike, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Consistency doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on commitment. It's a decision to show up regardless of how you feel. If you only act when you feel inspired, you'll never build momentum. But if you act even when you don't, you'll find that motivation often follows action. Movement creates energy, and energy creates focus. The people who achieve their goals are not those who always feel ready. They're the ones who show up anyway. The reason consistency is so powerful is because it compounds over time. The small effort you put in today may seem insignificant, but when repeated every day, it builds exponential growth. Think about it like planting seeds. One day of effort doesn't create a forest, but daily effort, nurtured with patience and care, grows into something unstoppable. The problem is, most people quit before the compounding effect kicks in. They underestimate how much they can achieve if they just keep going. They get discouraged when they don't see quick results, forgetting that most of the progress is invisible in the beginning. The foundation always takes the longest to build because it's what everything else stands on. In every field, from business to fitness to art, the principle is the same. The people who achieve mastery are those who embraced the boredom of consistency. They practiced their craft even when it felt repetitive. They stayed disciplined even when progress seemed slow. They understood that consistency is not about intensity, it's about longevity. It's about being there day after day, doing the work, refining, improving, learning. That's how you separate the temporary from the timeless. Because real growth doesn't come from occasional effort, it comes from sustained effort. To master consistency, you need systems, not just goals. Goals give you direction, but systems give you progress. When you rely only on goals, your motivation fades once you hit or miss them. But when you build a system, a routine, a structure, a habit, progress becomes automatic. You don't have to think about it every time, it becomes part of who you are. That's what consistency really is, aligning your daily actions with your deeper purpose until they become second nature. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And consistency is what strengthens those systems day after day. Discipline is the fuel that keeps consistency alive. There will be days when everything feels heavy, when progress feels invisible, when your effort seems wasted. But those are the days that count the most. Every time you push through resistance, you reinforce your mental toughness. Every time you stick to your routine, when it would have been easier to quit, you strengthen your identity as someone who perseveres. Consistency is less about doing more and more about doing what matters. Again and again. The repetition may not feel rewarding in the moment, but the results always show up later. It's also important to celebrate small wins. A consistent mindset isn't about waiting for big victories. It's about recognizing the value in daily progress. When you acknowledge each step forward, you create positive reinforcement. That's how habits stick. You remind your brain that effort is worth it, even if the destination feels far away. Success is built on 1,000 tiny steps, not one giant leap. Each small win, each completed task, each fulfilled promise adds another brick to the foundation you're building. Consistency also requires patience. We live in a world obsessed with speed, fast results, instant gratification, quick rewards. But real success doesn't operate on that timeline. It rewards those who can endure, those who can persist even when no one's clapping for them. The most successful people understand that time is their ally, not their enemy. They're willing to play the long game. Because while most people burn out chasing quick success, consistent people quietly build something that lasts. They know that true mastery is a result of showing up, not showing off. When you look at anyone who's truly successful, you'll see a pattern. Consistency wasn't just something they practiced, it became part of who they are. It's not about working endlessly, it's about showing up purposefully. It's about doing what matters most every single day until the results speak for themselves. Because success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. Learning to communicate with clarity and empathy is one of the most valuable skills you can ever develop if you want to succeed, not just in 2026, but in life. Communication is more than speaking, it's about connecting. It's about making others feel seen, heard, and understood. Too often, we confuse talking with communicating. We think that if we can express ourselves well, we're good communicators. But true communication isn't about impressing others with your words, it's about making sure your message is received with understanding. It's not about proving you're right, it's about creating alignment, trust, and mutual respect. Clarity ensures that your message is understood, while empathy ensures that it's felt. When you speak with clarity, you remove confusion. When you speak with empathy, you remove distance. Together, they create the foundation of meaningful human connection. The problem is, most people focus only on clarity. They want to be understood, but they forget to understand. They focus on what they want to say instead of what the other person needs to hear. Communication is not one-directional, it's a bridge between two minds. That bridge has to be built from both sides, logic on one end, emotion on the other. Clarity speaks to the mind, empathy speaks to the heart. And people are moved not just by what they understand, but by what they feel. Clarity begins with intention. Before you speak, ask yourself, what do I want this person to take away? What do I want them to feel, to understand, to do? Most people communicate reactively. They speak to respond, not to connect. But effective communication requires purpose. When you're clear on your intention, your words naturally become simpler, sharper, and more focused. You avoid unnecessary complexity because you care more about being understood than being impressive. Great communicators know that simplicity is not a lack of depth. It's a sign of mastery. It means you've thought deeply enough to express complex ideas in a way that others can easily grasp. Empathy, on the other hand, is what makes your communication human. It's the ability to step into someone else's perspective and see the world through their eyes. It's listening not to reply, but to truly understand. When people feel understood, they open up, they trust you, and trust is the foundation of influence. Without empathy, communication becomes manipulation, an attempt to make people act without making them feel valued. But when empathy is present, communication becomes collaboration. It turns me versus you it transforms conversations from debates into discoveries. One of the reasons empathy is so rare today is because listening has become a lost art. We live in a world that rewards speaking, performing, and projecting. But the best communicators are often the best listeners. They pay attention not only to what's being said, but to what's being left unsaid, the emotions behind the words, the pauses, the tone, the hesitation. Empathy is built in those moments when you notice what others overlook. It's in the way you remember small details, the way you acknowledge someone's feelings, the way you create a safe space for others to express themselves. Clarity and empathy also play a huge role in leadership. A great leader communicates vision clearly and compassionately. They know that people don't just follow instructions, they follow meaning. If your team doesn't understand the why behind your message, they won't feel inspired to act. And if they don't feel that you understand them, they won't feel safe enough to give their best. The most effective leaders don't just speak to be heard, they speak to inspire. They don't just inform, they ignite. Their clarity aligns people, and their empathy connects them. That combination creates loyalty, engagement, and shared purpose. Improving your communication daily means practicing awareness. Notice how you express yourself. Notice whether you're speaking to be understood or just to be right. Notice how people respond to you. Do they feel energized or defensive? Do they open up or shut down? Feedback is one of the best teachers of communication. Every interaction gives you data about how you're being perceived. When you pay attention to those signals, you can adjust your tone, your timing, and your message. Communication is not static, it's adaptive. The more aware you are, the more skillful you become at meeting people where they are. It's also important to remember that communication isn't just verbal. Your body language, facial expressions, and energy often speak louder than your words. People can sense authenticity. They can feel when your words and your emotions are aligned, and they can feel when they're not. That's why clarity without authenticity fails. If you say the right things but your tone or actions tell a different story, trust breaks instantly. To communicate effectively, your message has to match your behavior. People may forget your words, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Empathy also means adjusting your communication style to your audience. Not everyone processes information the same way. Some people respond to logic, others to stories, others to emotion. The more you understand the people you're speaking to, the more effective your message becomes. It's not about changing your truth. It's about translating it in a way that others can receive. That's what makes communication an art. It's not rigid, it's responsive. You adapt not to manipulate, but to connect more deeply. To develop clarity and empathy, practice slowing down. In a fast-paced world, people rush to fill silence. But silence is powerful. It gives space for thought, reflection, and emotion. When you slow down, you not only communicate more clearly, you also listen more fully. You catch nuances you would have missed otherwise. You understand context better. And you show others that they matter enough for you to give them your full attention. That's the ultimate sign of respect. Presence. Being fully present is the purest form of empathy. As technology continues to evolve and attention spans shrink, the ability to communicate with both clarity and empathy will become even more valuable. Artificial intelligence can write messages, generate responses, and automate conversations, but it can't replicate genuine human understanding. It can't make someone feel seen. That's where your strength lies, in your ability to connect heart to heart, not just word to word. When you combine clear thinking with compassionate understanding, Your words don't just inform, they inspire. They don't just communicate facts, they build trust. They don't just speak to people, they move them. Discipline is the difference between people who dream about success and those who actually achieve it. Motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going when the excitement fades. It's easy to feel inspired for a day or a week, when everything feels new and possible. But the truth is, success demands repetition. It demands showing up again and again, especially when no one is watching. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about consistency with purpose. It's the quiet power that transforms intentions into results. And if you want to achieve something meaningful in 2026, you need to build a discipline that's stronger than your motivation. Motivation is emotional. It's driven by moods, by inspiration, by circumstances. Discipline is rational. It doesn't care how you feel. It focuses on what needs to be done. The most successful people in any field aren't those who are always excited. They're those who've trained themselves to act regardless of emotion. They've built routines and systems that support their goals so that their progress doesn't depend on whether they feel like it or not. Because the truth is, feelings are unreliable. They fluctuate with the weather, with fatigue, with feedback. Discipline doesn't ask, do I want to? It asks, is this important? To build discipline, you have to learn how to control your impulses. Every day, you'll face a choice between what's easy and what's necessary, between short-term comfort and long-term growth. The human brain is wired for instant gratification. It craves comfort and avoids discomfort. But growth only happens in discomfort. Discipline is what helps you override that instinct. It's what allows you to say no to distractions, to stay focused when things get tough, to keep pushing when progress is invisible. It's not about denying yourself pleasure, it's about delaying it for something more meaningful. Think about any great achievement, building a business, getting fit, writing a book, mastering a skill. None of it happens overnight. It requires showing up daily, doing the work, and often doing it without applause. That's where most people give up. They confuse motivation with commitment. They think, if I'm not motivated, I can't perform. But motivation is a spark, discipline is the fire. The spark gets you started, but the fire keeps you going through storms. When you rely only on motivation, you'll burn out fast. But when you build discipline, you create endurance. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you train. You train it by making small promises to yourself and keeping them. Wake up at the time you said you would. Finish the task you said you'd complete. Exercise even when you don't want to. These small acts of discipline compound. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your self-trust. You build the identity of someone who follows through, and identity drives behavior. Once you start seeing yourself as a disciplined person, your actions begin to align automatically. You no longer need to rely on willpower. Discipline becomes part of who you are. Another key part of building discipline is managing your environment. It's much harder to stay disciplined in a space full of distractions. Willpower is limited, but design can be powerful. Structure your environment to make discipline easier and temptation harder. If you want to eat healthy, don't stock junk food. If you want to write every morning, leave your notebook ready the night before. If you want to reduce distractions, put your phone in another room while you work. Discipline thrives in simplicity. The fewer decisions you have to make, the more energy you can devote to meaningful work. Discipline also requires clarity. You can't be disciplined about everything, so you must be clear about what matters most. The more you define your priorities, the easier it becomes to stay focused. Without clarity, discipline feels like restriction. With clarity, it becomes freedom, the freedom to invest your time, energy, and attention into what truly matters. When you know your purpose, discipline doesn't feel like sacrifice, it feels like alignment. You're no longer fighting against yourself. You're channeling your energy toward a goal that's deeply important to you. One of the biggest misconceptions about discipline is that it's rigid or joyless. In reality, disciplined people often experience more fulfillment, not less. Because discipline brings progress, and progress brings happiness. There's a unique satisfaction that comes from doing what you said you would, from seeing your own growth, from knowing you've earned your results. That feeling of earned pride is far greater than the temporary comfort of giving up. Discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I am worth the effort. Of course, discipline doesn't mean perfection. You will have days when you slip, you'll miss workouts, procrastinate, or lose focus. But discipline isn't about never failing. It's about how quickly you recover. The difference between the successful and the average is not the absence of failure, but the speed of recovery. Disciplined people don't waste time on guilt or self-blame, they simply reset and start again. They understand that consistency is more important than intensity. Missing a day isn't the problem, giving up is. So they treat discipline like a muscle. The more they practice it, the stronger it becomes. Self-discipline also requires self-compassion. You can't build discipline through self-hate or punishment. You build it through self-respect and responsibility. Being disciplined doesn't mean being harsh on yourself. It means being honest with yourself. It means acknowledging when you could do better without losing faith in yourself. It's about understanding that growth is not linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and full of setbacks. But every time you choose to try again, you're reinforcing your resilience. In the age of distractions, discipline is a superpower. Everyone wants success, but few are willing to do the boring, repetitive, uncelebrated work it requires. The world glorifies results but ignores the process. Yet, the process is where greatness is built. Discipline is the force that allows you to stay consistent long enough to see results. It's what transforms potential into performance, vision into reality. And while motivation may come and go, discipline remains steady, reliable, and unshakable. It's not about being perfect every day. It's about refusing to quit when it gets hard. It's about showing up again and again, even when no one notices, because deep down you know that everything you're building will be worth it. The people you surround yourself with shape who you become. No one grows in isolation, and no one succeeds alone. The truth is, the relationships you build, the ones that challenge you, stretch you, and help you see beyond yourself, are some of the most powerful forces in your journey toward success. We often talk about self-improvement as if it's a solo mission, but personal growth thrives in the right environment. You can't expect to evolve if you're surrounded by people who are comfortable staying the same. The company you keep determines the standards you hold, the beliefs you nurture, and the mindset you live by. Investing in relationships that challenge and grow you means intentionally choosing to be around people who push you to think bigger, act wiser, and live with purpose. It means surrounding yourself with those who won't let you settle for mediocrity. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens through friction, through being challenged, through honest feedback. The people who truly care about your potential won't always tell you what you want to hear. They'll tell you what you need to hear. And while that might feel uncomfortable at times, it's necessary. The right relationships don't just make you feel good, they make you better. There's a saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's not about ego, it's about environment. Growth requires humility, the willingness to learn from others who know more than you. When you intentionally seek out people who inspire you, you start to absorb their mindset, their habits, and their discipline. You see what excellence looks like up close. You start to model the behavior of people who've achieved what you aspire to. That's how growth accelerates. The energy of driven, curious, purpose-driven people is contagious. Their presence alone challenges you to raise your standards. At the same time, building these relationships requires vulnerability. You can't form genuine connections while trying to appear perfect. Growth-oriented relationships are built on authenticity, not image. When you allow yourself to be real, to share your struggles, your doubts, your mistakes, you create space for mutual growth. You learn from each other's journeys. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength in motion. It's saying, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm willing to learn. That openness invites people who value growth over perfection, and those are the people who will truly help you evolve. The people who challenge you don't always come in the form of mentors or coaches. Sometimes they're peers, friends or colleagues who hold you accountable, who remind you of your values when you start to drift. Accountability is one of the purest forms of support. It's someone saying, I believe in your potential too much to let you quit. When you surround yourself with people who have that kind of integrity, you build an ecosystem of growth. Each person contributes to the other's success. Each conversation becomes a spark for reflection, innovation, or action. That's how great teams, partnerships, and communities are built, through mutual challenge and shared purpose. It's also important to recognize that not every relationship is meant to stay. Some connections serve a season of your life. As you evolve, your values, goals, and perspectives shift, and not everyone will grow with you. That's okay. Letting go of relationships that drain your energy or keep you stuck is an act of self-respect. It doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you start prioritizing growth. If someone constantly undermines your goals, fills your mind with doubt, or keeps you tied to old habits, they're not helping you move forward. Growth requires courage. Sometimes the courage to walk away from comfort to step toward potential. The relationships that truly grow you are built on trust. Trust allows you to take risks, to express ideas freely, to challenge and be challenged without fear of judgment. It's the foundation that makes feedback possible. Without trust, feedback feels like criticism. With trust, it feels like guidance. When you find people who give feedback with sincerity, not to tear you down but to lift you higher, hold on to them. They're rare. They see in you what you might not yet see in yourself. And that belief can become the fuel that drives your evolution. Investing in meaningful relationships also means giving as much as you take. Growth isn't a one-way process. The best relationships are reciprocal. They expand both sides. You grow by contributing, by helping others, by sharing your knowledge and experiences. When you mentor or support someone else, you reinforce your own learning. You gain perspective. You understand your journey more deeply. True success isn't measured by how far you go alone, but by how many people you uplift along the way. To build relationships that elevate you, you have to be intentional. Be selective about the energy you allow around you. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not gossip. People who see possibilities, not problems. People who encourage action, not excuses. Every interaction either feeds your potential or drains it. The people who challenge and grow you will often push you outside your comfort zone, but they'll never push you away from your purpose. In the digital age, where connections are abundant but depth is rare, it's easy to mistake visibility for value. Having thousands of followers doesn't mean you're surrounded by the right people. The relationships that matter most are often the quiet ones. The mentor who gives you honest advice, the friend who believes in your dream when no one else does, the colleague who challenges your thinking respectfully. These are the people who shape your mindset, your decisions, and ultimately your success. When you invest in relationships that challenge and grow you, you create a feedback loop of excellence. You become sharper because you're constantly learning. You become wiser because you're constantly reflecting, and you become stronger because you're constantly being tested in the right ways. The people around you act as mirrors. They reflect your strengths, your blind spots, and your potential. That reflection is priceless because we rarely see ourselves clearly until someone helps us see. Your success in 2026 will depend not just on what you know or how hard you work, but on who walks beside you. The right people don't just support your goals, they stretch them. They don't just make you comfortable, they make you courageous. They remind you that growth is not about being better than others, but about being better than you were yesterday. And when you surround yourself with people who live by that principle, success becomes not just a destination, but a shared journey of becoming more together.